Alive on the Moon, Jaro. It's on the pen alive with your host David Knapp.
Thank you, Stephen Hawking, and thank you for being here. Welcome to On the Pen Live. I'm your host, Dave Knapp, ManOnMounjaro. That's why I'm here. You are on the pen. Wegovy, Saxenda, Victoza, Trulicity, Mounjaro, Zepbound, Compound, that pen. It's what we talk about here at On the Pen. On this, our 82nd episode of On the Pen Live. We've got a great show for you tonight. Amy Kane, with the handle Amy in Half. You've probably seen her on Oprah. You've probably seen one of her 80,000 viral videos. She is here tonight to share a little bit about her journey to, let's call it GLP-1 stardom. She is, if you haven't caught her content, which I imagine the great majority of you have, put Amy in the chat if you have seen Amy's content before. But if you haven't, she is the queen of clapback. I mean, it is as if her videos are a magnet for every jerk who lives on social media, and her response videos they're just so good. And so I'm super excited to have her in the house tonight. Look at all these Amy's dropping in the chat. Yeah. So I am super excited to have her. Of course, we've got another maintenance minute with Corey. Now, if you would go back just a couple weeks ago, we had Corey on to explain this new sort of little vignette that we have each week for those of you who are in maintenance, realizing that many of you along the way hit maintenance and then you're kind of watching this show like, hey, what's in this for me now? So Corey, who is in maintenance, is here weekly to share an update for those of you who are in maintenance. Now, Corey is in the line of fire for Hurricane Helene. So if you all would say a prayer for everyone who is in the way of this storm that is hitting the west coast of Florida and up through the Gulf there, just say a prayer for all those in the path of that hurricane. That has got to be a super freaky thing to live with. I know here in the Midwest, during tornado season, we all kind of hunker down and these storms come and they can strike swiftly and severely, and it's just unnerving. So prayers for everyone in the path of that storm for safety and all their belongings and homes, and everybody's safe. So with that said, we've got a great show tonight, and you know that we have a rhythm, a rhyme, and a reason to this show. One of the first things that we like to get into on the pen is just a little bit of housekeeping. You want mint for pillow? What kind of hotel is this? What's going on in the world of On the Pen? Well, it just seems like every week there is something new. Of course, we have had just an amazing week here. We have had some big news happen in that our GLP-1 Zepbound for Weight Loss group, which was 20,000 people strong, which disappeared off the face of the earth a couple Fridays ago. We had it finally restored. And so for those of you who are looking for that group on Facebook, it is back under a different name. It's just now On the Pen Support Group. And so if you're going onto Facebook and you're looking for this group, well, On the Pen Support Group, you're going to find that group of 20,000. It's back. I don't know why. I don't know how, but I don't ask any questions either. I'm just thankful to have it back. We're thankful to have that community back because, as we said before, it wasn't that Facebook had gotten rid of just a random group that, had a bunch of riffraff going on. It got rid of thousands of people's stories, thousands of people's journeys that were shared in this group, before and after photos of milestones, photos of triumphs, photos of heartbreak, all sorts of things. So to have all of those memories for those people over the course of their journey with Zepbound over the last nearly year just wiped away was extremely devastating to many people. So we're extremely happy to have that group back. And so if you're looking for it, again, just a quick name change, On the Pen Support Group. So I hope that you'll check that out. Of course, this past week, we had a really interesting live stream here on the channel for the hearings on Capitol Hill with the CEO of Novo Nordisk. And those were it was a really fascinating time to sort of get together because it was a C-SPAN stream. We were able to live stream it here on the channel. So if you joined us here for that, it was a really great time, and we got to really just kind of hang out and listen to what he had to say. You know, the amazing thing, the big takeaway from that whole sort of back and forth for me was that PBMs are taking 74 cents on every dollar that is spent on a Novo Nordisk medication in the United States. So when we talk about the cost of medications in this country, when we talk about accessibility, we cannot have that conversation without having the conversation about what we're going to do about PBM reform in this country. And so use the hashtag PBM reform. If you're disgusted about the price of medications in this country, and this extends far beyond the GLP-1 community, this is all medications. And the PBMs taking such a big cut of these medications has to be put to an end. They're providing no innovation. They're providing nothing to the medical system except for basically bureaucratic middlemen. And they're taking so much and bilking the American people. And so I just really think that the sights were aimed in the wrong direction on this hearing. But that's not to say that pharmaceutical companies have been completely blameless either. But I do think when you look at how can we cut some of the fat out of the cost of medication, you can look at 74 cents on every dollar of the list price of the medications or the net price that the pharmaceutical companies are making on these, and that's going to the PBMs. That's crazy. So yeah, that was a really interesting stream. Thank you for everyone who joined us for that stream. We're going to keep this show rolling because we're really excited to talk to Amy tonight, but we're going to get into a little bit of what's fresh in the news of GLP-1 this week. So one of the interesting things that happened this week was we got a very interesting post that popped up on Reddit. And I believe this was yesterday. And I want to just get into this a little bit because I find it very interesting. We did a couple videos on it yesterday. So essentially, I'm trying to pull this up here. So give me just a second. Essentially, what we had here was a post of an email that was a back and forth between a patient and the FDA. The patient was reporting their shortage, as we always talk about doing here on this channel. And basically, they received this response from the FDA. We went over this, so I won't read through the whole thing again, but it's basically boilerplate, copy, paste. Hey, shortages happen. And even though the manufacturer has enough medicine, it doesn't mean that the pharmacies will. That's essentially what it says. But at the bottom here is where it was like they left in a little oops-a-daisy, right? This was not intended to be copied and pasted into this email clearly. And what it says is once we resolve the shortage in October, we can add similar language to the standard responses. So what this person received was a standard response from the FDA in response to their inquiring about the shortages. And they accidentally left this internal memo on this email that says, once we, the FDA, resolve the shortage of tirzepatide in October, we can add similar language to the standard response. Now, what is the implication of this? Now, a couple things. We have been working to verify this email because it was a post on Reddit. I've been clear about that since I dropped the first video about that. So obviously a post on Reddit is a post on Reddit. But this seemed to have the hallmarks of the FDA really taking on the language that Eli Lilly has been spouting off for the last couple of months, that, hey, we have enough medication, but that doesn't mean your pharmacy will, so if you report your shortage, just know that doesn't necessarily mean that it's short at the manufacturing level, which I could buy, but we have many patients that follow this channel who are getting their medications through Lilly Direct. There is no distributor. It's Eli Lilly direct to the customer, but they're waiting weeks, sometimes months for their 10 milligram dose of medication through Lilly Direct. It doesn't get much more direct than Eli Lilly Direct. And if they can't get a medication within weeks, that to me seems to indicate that there definitely is still a shortage. So what basically we've been working on was to get a response from the FDA. I don't anticipate that the FDA is going to come out and say, yeah, this was our email, our bad. Yeah, shortage is ending in October. That response is not going to happen. It took nearly a day to get any sort of response from the FDA, and the response that we received so far was just basically pointing back to, here's how shortages work. No indication as to whether or not that email originated from them or not. So they weren't willing to say, yes, that was us. But to me, when somebody doesn't want to answer a question directly, they just skirt around it. It's very easy to say, no, that was not our email. but they did not do that. And so here's what I think is going on. I do believe this email to be legitimate. And so the implications, you can go back to the videos that I made the last couple of days and watch those videos for the implications of that. But just know that the compound medications are going to be, look at it this way. Nothing will go away overnight. If you consider the availability and the accessibility of compound medications to be an open faucet, the water's running. Right now, what we're seeing is just the slow turn, right? And I don't know that it'll ever be turned off completely, but I think it will be a slower drip, so to speak. And so it does impact accessibility. And I think that we do need to be making those plans. We do need to be working with the telemedicine companies that we are working with. If you rely on compounds for pricing, if you rely on compounds for a true compound where you have to have it with a B12 or what have you, now's the time to be reaching out and having those conversations with your telemedicine company, because we want to make sure that we have the information that we need to go have more competent and confident conversations with our medical providers. That's what OnThePen is all about. And so it's not to scare, it's not to incite fear or worry or anxiety. It is to give you information that you can act on and make plans and kind of go forward from there. So that's the update in that realm. I wanted to bring that to you today because I know that, I sort of told you yesterday, hey, we're working on it. That's the update. The update was just a very around, a circular sort of response that really didn't directly address the question. So to me, that's an indication that it probably did originate with them, although I cannot say that for sure. So it's sort of our fake news and what's fresh all rolled into one. Nobody really taking ownership of that email, but I think that we can sort of infer where it came from. So that's what's fresh. That's the fake news. It's all rolled into one this week. Thank you for those who have followed my videos this past week. We've done a lot of really great. I did a personal update this past week. Thank you for all the love that y'all gave me on that video. Of course, last week's show where we had Mimi from Australia, who's in the chat tonight, she's always watching us from the future. It's Friday afternoon. She's enjoying her Friday afternoon lunch from the future in Australia today. So thank you for being with us, Mimi. But we've got another great guest tonight. We've got a great guest lined up for next week too. Just a lot of really great stuff happening for OnThePen. But without further ado, we are going to bring in tonight's hot channel. Let her know that you're excited to hear from her tonight. Amy from @Amy in Half is here tonight. Tonight's hot channel.
Hot channel.
Amy, welcome.
Hi.
So a hot channel. So I did that like little thing like back when I first started this show, and that was like 82 weeks ago that we started the show. I think this is the 83rd episode. I don't know that we've had a hotter channel than Amy in Half. So welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I am excited to be here. So of course I'm going to show up.
Yeah, great. And it's always very cool to have a fellow Midwesterner. Now, Amy, if you've seen any of her videos, is very obviously from the Chicagoland area, Illinois. So I had to pop on the Bear shirt tonight. Just solidarity, right?
Yeah, there's always people guessing wherever I'm from. People try to figure it out. But yes, I have the very Chicago accent. And when I'm passionate about something, it really comes out.
Really passionate. When you're passionate.
Exactly.
So that's awesome. I love to be able to connect with a fellow Midwesterner, and we gotta talk just right off the bat. Like, your social media stuff has absolutely exploded over the last, let's say how long?
Like maybe like I started posting about a year and a half ago, a little less. And I'd say maybe over this past 6 months is when it really started going along here. But yeah, I've been posting for like a year and a half now or so. So not too long.
Yeah, and it has really blown up. So you primarily live on TikTok and Instagram, correct?
Yeah. So I only started posting on Instagram right around, it was March when the whole Oprah thing happened. I actually had not posted on Instagram because it was a lot more personal people in my life, like friends and acquaintances and people from college. And so I was hesitant to share on Instagram. But once sort of the cat was out of the bag, so I had built somewhat of a following over on TikTok, maybe like 40,000 followers. That's when I started posting on Instagram, is when the whole Oprah deal happened. So not too long ago, but yeah. So now focused on TikTok and Instagram.
So it's absolutely crazy. So now I realize like it's not about the numbers, but when you're in content creation, it's certainly a metric that you can tell like how many people you're reaching. Where are you at like followers wise on both of those?
On TikTok, I have about like 220, like 220K, and on Instagram it's about 130, I think, maybe 125, something like that. Yeah.
Think about how many people that is. That is insane. So you would kind of say
I try not to think about it, because then I get, because I share a lot of very vulnerable, often uncomfortable things. So sometimes I like to pretend that millions of people are not watching it.
Yeah, that's probably helpful.
Yeah.
It's absolutely crazy how meteoric it was, because I remember when the Oprah special sort of came out, which has been like 6 or 8 months ago. It was like, oh wow, some people from the community are like involved in this. That's really cool. Like, oh, there's this Amy girl. Like, oh yeah, oh cool. Like, oh, she's got some really, really interesting content. And then it just like absolutely blew up. And I honestly don't even know, like, I don't know what you attribute it to. I don't even know that it was necessarily like the Oprah thing, because it's not like you were like, hey, I'm Amy and half on Oprah. So you can't really say like it was the Oprah thing. Like that was a cool experience, I'm sure, for you, which we'll get into. But honestly, it was just like, I think you just kind of doubled down on like, I'm going to start making content, and it's just really, really good content. And so one of the things that I just kind of want to bring, I'm doing things a little bit out of order tonight, and I'm a little discombobulated because I'm trying to get some media queued up that I can share with people, because I know there's some people that are here watching tonight that are probably not on the other social media platforms, and I wanted to give those people a flavor of your content, so that they, like, if they, let's say they just live here on YouTube, that they can go, oh, okay, that might be worth going over to Instagram for, or to TikTok for. Like you had a video yesterday that I thought was so just profound, and I want to throw that up here for everybody to see. Sorry, I'm trying to do like 10 things at once here. So let me throw this here up on the screen. This was a video that you put up about food noise. It was just kind of your way of here. Why don't you say it? You let people know, like, what was your thought behind this video, and then I'll throw it up there for you.
Sure. Well, I'll give a little backstory. I remember probably maybe like a year ago, I remember I was standing in my closet, and I was thinking about food noise, and I remember thinking, like, how can I describe it to people? And because someone asked me, and that's when I started making these videos, and I do them probably like every few weeks, where I sort of play out food noise and what goes on in what was a situation in my brain. And if someone doesn't know, food noise is like obsessions and compulsions around food. It's not just liking food. And I was like, how can I describe that as someone like myself who has experienced food noise since I always say since I came out of the womb, but probably I remember my earliest memories are around food noise. And so I was thinking about ways to try to describe it. And so yesterday I made a video. I got my kids some donuts from Dunkin' Donuts, and we were at the school pickup line, and my son gave me the bag of donuts back, and there were 2 left. And I ended up eating one. But in that moment before, I was like, this would have been an experience where food noise would have taken over. And so that was like, wait, okay, let me film these donuts and let me give kind of the mindset around what takes place when food noise is so loud. So that's kind of how this developed into this.
Literally, the video. You sort of like in the moment, like summoned like the old you. I mean, the pre having the food noise controlled, and you're like, you summon that and you're like, this is what it looked like. So that's a perfect tee up. I want to share this with everybody because I seriously, and this has happened to me with a couple videos of yours, and we'll share another one. But when I saw it, I was like, this is just such a brilliant way to show people what this is like. So having had that teed up, here's this video.
Leftover donuts from your kids. You are not going to eat them. You're being good today. Screwed up your diet yesterday. You are not touching those donuts. You are going to have willpower today. Why can't you stop thinking about the donuts? Screw it. You're going to eat the donut. Now you need more donuts, more food. You have no willpower. Where are you getting more food for the rest of the day? You are pathetic.
My gosh, if that isn't every person who has dieted their whole life, like it just, you nailed it. You absolutely nailed it with that video. So on the topic kind of food noise, because I do realize that outside of the bubble of the GLP-1 community, people hear that and they go, what even is that? Did you hear, like, was it like, were you on TikTok, or like, when was the first time you heard the phrase food noise and were able to like attach that to that experience for you? Or did the word food noise sort of give a name to something you'd always experienced?
And I think, in sort of in combination with that is a lot of people will say to me when they start taking a GLP-1 medication, that's like the first time they even recognize that, oh, my brain was thinking about food a lot and I was having obsessions around food. For me, I always knew that I liked food and thought about food way more than I wanted to. And I always wondered why other people like that seemed to be normal around food and I didn't have that experience. So when I started the medication, I was like, okay, this is shifting things in my brain and in my biology and all of that. And so I guess I don't even know exactly where I first heard the terminology. Maybe it was through social media. I don't think really my doctor brought it up to me, but I always sort of knew that my brain work differently than other people's. And then I don't know where I started deciding to post about food noise, because at first I was not posting about food noise. I think I can't say for sure, but I do know that it's definitely talked about more. Even now I see a lot more posts now about food noise than I did even a year and a half ago when I was scrolling TikTok. So yeah.
Sure. So yeah, like you're probably one of the pioneers, like the first people to even start talking about that. But I know the first time somebody said food noise, I was like, yeah. I mean, I guess it's just kind of that constant rattling around in your brain in this video. Like this video just nailed it for me, because I have spent 20 years of my adult life. Every single year I've spent half the year dieting, like hardcore dieting. And I just know, I remember that feeling, like you're like, oh, I've got, this sort of meal in front of me. I know that I got to eat this many calories for the day. I'm just going to eat this much. You get through, a third of it and you're like, that's my calories for this meal. If I want to eat later in the day, but your body's like, I'm not done eating. Like, I'm still hungry. Like, this is not enough food to sustain you. You're going to have headaches. You're going to have and just, you get this just constant reverberation of these thoughts in your brain. And it wasn't until hormonally the medicine came along and sort of leveled that out, that it just wasn't that same obsession. And while I haven't lost a lot of weight, I'll still say like it still works in that way for me, where I don't obsess. I never think about food. And even when I'm eating, when I'm done, I'm done. There's never like this lack of satiation. The whole even feeling full was like a new feeling for me when I started these medications. I just didn't know what that felt like even until the medicine came along.
That's what I used to always say. I didn't know. I felt like a head without a body. Like I didn't know I knew fullness, like uncomfortably full, but actual hunger and fullness was like a new phenomenon. Like you described. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that is like mind blowing to people who have like a normal biological response to food. They hear that and they go, what? Like they can't even wrap their head around it. But it's like no truer words were ever spoken. I legitimately, it wasn't until I had Mounjaro for the first time that I got, a certain way through a plate of food, and I was like, pushed it out of the way. Like I don't want this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I literally just this again. I think you said it well too. That uncomfortably full. It may not be that I never felt full because I'd always say like I remember feeling full like after a Thanksgiving meal and being like, oh, But outside of that, there's no like, it's either hunger or the extreme, and then there's like no feeling in between the two, until the medicine came along. And so I think it just speaks to the hormonal aspect of this stuff. We've got another clip here. I think I've got it ready. You want to kind of tee this one up too?
Sure. Yeah. So this was a video. Someone had asked in one of my comments on a different video, like, what is food noise? Which is very valid. Like you said, if you don't know, you don't know. And so I replied to that video by there wasn't even food present, but I was describing a very typical experience that I would go through when I was sort of in that diet cycle of, well, the diet always starts tomorrow, and kind of trying to restrict myself throughout the day. So it's just me talking about a day of what it's like having food noise, and then really ultimately feeling like a failure at the end of the day. So that's kind of the gist of it. And even sometimes, even watching back that one that we just watched, like, it causes me a little bit of anxiety still because I remember those feelings. And so yeah, I think that's why it resonates with a lot of people. This video, I was nervous. I still get nervous sometimes to post some of the food noise videos, and I would get nervous because I'm not sure if people are going to understand. But this video resonated with like a lot of people. So it's cool.
Yeah. Awesome. Let's check it out.
Waking up and the first thing you think to yourself is the diet's starting over again today. You're going to skip breakfast because you fell off the wagon again yesterday. On your way to work, you want to stop and get a coffee, but you don't trust yourself. Because if you go get the coffee, that means you might get one of those unhealthy pastries. And you swore that you weren't eating that garbage again. You think you're hungry, but you can't eat anything. Because if you start eating, you won't be able to stop eating. Because you have complete lack of control when it comes to food. You've made it through the morning, but they're getting pizza today for lunch at work. You walk into the conference room and there's the pizza. Don't you dare touch that pizza. Don't think about that pizza. Everyone else is eating the pizza, but you're not going to eat the pizza. Why can you not stop thinking about the pizza? You can barely focus on what's going on in the meeting because you're so focused on the pizza. You can actually feel the salvation in your mouth. Screw it, you're eating the pizza. Now you know you can't just have one piece of pizza. You need to have more pizza, and you're gonna have to sneak the pizza because you don't want people judging you for eating the pizza. They think you are disgusting for how much pizza you're eating. You keep eating the pizza because you don't even know if you're hungry or full anymore. Screw it, you messed up your whole day. Now you're gonna go to the vending machines and get some candy. And in between your meetings and phone calls, you're figuring out how you can eat more food. The second you get in your car, you think to yourself, are you stopping at that fast food restaurant on the way home? Of course you're stopping at the fast food restaurant. You already screwed up your day. Might as well go all out. You stop at the fast food restaurant, you take it home, and you eat through the rest of the night. You go to bed feeling uncomfortably full. But you promise yourself that tomorrow you are starting your diet over again and you're not eating any of that crap. Food noise isn't about liking food. It's obsessions and compulsions and always thinking about food. The medical field recognizes food noise as a real thing. It's not just something you made up in your head. But there are ways for it to get better.
Wow. It's just so like, do you sit down before you, just from a creator standpoint, do you sit down before you do a video like this and like write that out, or is that off the cuff? Are you just able to channel that because it's so intrinsic to the way you lived for so long?
Yeah, no, it's the latter. It's just because I know the experience so well. And what's so interesting is so many comments will say, stop getting in my brain. Like, are you in my head? Are you following me around? Like, and I think what that shows is like so many of us know. I mean, I that video has had millions of views, and that's not to, toot my own horn. I share that to say that shows how many people get it, And so for me, yeah, no, it's just I remember that experience.
Yeah. I like, again, I don't think there's probably a single person who has struggled with their weight significantly that wouldn't watch that. And it's crazy how quickly you're able to channel that, like it's happening almost in real time in your head. It's very, very powerful. And I think, just a testament to why your content has resonated so much with people, because it's just like, yes, that's just the way that you're able to channel it is just crazy, crazy impressive. And I think really helping people hopefully outside the bubble, right? Because one of the things that we talk about, as I talk with other creators, especially that make content sort of like I do, is like one of the things that we're always trying to do that you have accomplished with your style is getting our message outside of this bubble, this amen bubble, like where you can say something, but it's into an echo chamber and everybody goes, amen, Dave. Yeah, obesity is a disease. Amen. Food noise.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Like we want to get it outside to the people who are like, what the heck is this person talking about? And you've done that. So let's talk a little bit about that, because as I was kind of teeing up you coming on the show, I was like, she's the queen of clapback. So if there's one thing you're as good at as coming off the cuff like that and sort of channeling those old thoughts and emotions that you'd have, it's responding to people that say stupid stuff. And it seems like because your videos get outside that bubble, it's a magnet for people's just, I don't know, the horrible side of social media come back. What's that been like to sort of get your message to millions of people and then hear just people say horrible, mean things to you?
Yeah, if you and it's unfortunate in a sense, if you had asked me 2 years ago if I would be able to handle the amount of nasty, derogatory, hateful things that are said about me pretty much all day long, I would say no. I think I'm in such a different place in my life. I didn't start sharing my journey until I had lost a significant amount of weight. And I had been through a lot of the process already. So I think that has helped me feel more comfortable. But yeah, people say to me all the time, how do you deal with the amount of negativity you receive? Sometimes, especially on Instagram, I have to not look in the comments. Instagram is an intense place, more so than TikTok, when it comes to comments. But then the other side of it is like when you then have a video like the food noise video that goes viral, and then there's so many people that are like, oh my gosh, I get it. Like, thank you for saying this. It helps. I think that the reason my clapbacks often do very well is because I respond in a calm manner. I respond with a lot of facts usually. And there isn't a lot of argument that can come back with it. A lot of times I don't hear back from these people that wrote these comments. I'd say 95% of the time the comment's not available anymore. People say to me, why do you give them the platform, right? Why do you give them the stage? That's what they want. I don't respond for them. I will, like, I'm thinking, if someone says to me, oh my gosh, look at your horrible Ozempic face, right? That's a big one. The stereotypes around what Ozempic does to your body. And it has like 3,000 people that have liked it. I'm going to respond because I want people to know that it's a bunch of baloney. Yeah.
So you mean like somebody will put some sort of nasty comment on a video, like whatever it may be about your appearance or what you said or what have you, but it'll have that comment alone will have likes on it in the thousands.
And that's why, I do it to myself in a sense. I posted a video on Instagram the other day. It has about like 12 million views right now. And it was basically people are attacking how I look. And they're saying that I look sick because I'm on Ozempic. And okay, so it gives me an opportunity to combat the negativity and recognize, hey, like, here's the facts. My health has done a 180. You could say whatever you want. This is how I look. You want to tell me I look a certain way, fine. But it sort of gives me an opportunity to provide the facts and to reduce the shaming around all of this. Because it's like, in reality, so many of us that have struggled with our weight have been shamed for decades and decades. Now we're on a medication to help, and we're being shamed for the medication. So yeah.
It's like people don't like the fact that people are overweight or metabolically sick and however they want to spin that in their own brains. But then it's like you get healthy and they're like, well, we don't want you to get healthy that way. It's like, it's crazy. But I think your point is well taken. It's like, it is a huge opportunity when you do those kind of response videos to educate, because there's not a lot you can say when somebody just spits a bunch of facts about their own journey. Like, for some people, they've reversed their type 2 diabetes or put it in remission. For some people, they've avoided getting type 2 diabetes. Other people, have gone off of blood pressure medication or their CPAP machine. And it's like, can't really argue with that. Like, you can't argue with results. And so I think that it's awesome that you're doing those videos and that you've been able to get to a place just as a human where you've been able to sort of move past the trauma of living with the disease of obesity your whole life, and then being able to sort of channel it back towards education, which really is what you're doing, especially in those clapback videos, is just like, it's huge because it's changing the narrative. And I think that it's extremely interesting that you said most of the time I go back and the comment's been deleted. Somebody makes a comment on something. What do they want? They want people to respond to it. They want the dopamine hit of everybody saying, yeah, you're right. And they get that with like 3,000 likes, and then they go back and delete it. They delete all that, all that little, because you've put them in their place. And it's a point of education for people. So kudos to you, because I really think that that's what many of us are trying to do in our own way. But you have really sort of found a way to get it outside of the bubble. And it's just super powerful. I want to shift a little bit away from the content creation.
Sure.
And you are in maintenance currently, and after our interview, we're going to play we have a maintenance segment that we're doing on this show too. So I got to remind myself to do that. But you're in maintenance now. But can you tell us a little bit of just a flyover of your journey to GLP-1s? Like, what was life like pre GLP-1 for you? Like, what did your journey look like?
Sure. I say that I have struggled with my weight for as long as I can possibly remember. Body image and like I said, earliest memories revolved around food. I would say I had binge eating disorder probably by 10 years old. Like at a very, very young age, I was binging. Food was my focus. And that carried on through much of my life until I was like, okay, I want to try to lose weight. Well, okay, the way my body found it to be most effective to lose weight was really to just not eat enough food and to deprive myself of food. I was diagnosed with PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome, at 13 years old, which we know makes weight loss very, very challenging. I always had a high A1C. They were always saying, you got to lose weight. You got to lose weight. I mean, my whole life that was ingrained into me. I had done every diet. So eventually that led to a really toxic, tumultuous, disordered relationship with food. And I lost a lot of weight at times. There were times I lost a significant amount of weight, but I felt like I was hanging on for dear life. I was basically starving myself. And I would gain the weight back. Moving forward a little bit, then I had my son at 26 weeks. That was a pretty traumatic experience. And then my daughter was born April of 2020, so at the height of COVID. So after that, I had a 22-month-old and I had a newborn. And that was when I was just really not taking care of myself and gained a lot of weight. That was when I was at my highest weight. And then eventually I became diabetic. I always say I was on the road to diabetes. I had always had a high A1C. Eventually I became diabetic. So I started metformin for a few months. I lost a little bit of weight. And then I went to my endocrinologist and he said, hey, what do you think about Mounjaro? I was not the person that walked into my doctor's office and was like, hey, please write me a script for Ozempic. I actually had been prescribed diet pills like Fen-Phen when I was 17 years old. And I took it my whole first year of college and I lost a lot of weight. And I was like, well, I'm not going to do that again because that just made me starve myself and I'm not going to be doing that. So I was not the person that walked in and was like, I want this miracle drug. So after talking to him and learning more about it, I was also terrified of needles. So that was another thing. I've always been horrible. So I was like, this is going to be the most scary thing in my entire life. So I talked to him and I agreed to try it. I guess I mean my rock bottom. I was not doing well prior to starting Mounjaro. I don't know how long I had been diabetic because I avoided doctors because I didn't want to know. I didn't even know how much I weigh. That's why when people ask really what was my highest weight, I'm not totally sure. But yeah, my PCOS was horrible. I had horrible IBS. I was just hormones it was just bad. So I started Mounjaro. And my husband did my first injection because I was terrified. And then, but I went in with the mindset of like, I'm already feeling horrible. I'm having horrible digestive issues. I cannot have this be worse. So it gave me some hope in a sense. And I really focused on overhauling my diet. And yeah, that's and then that was 23 months ago. So it's been 23 months now that I've been on Mounjaro.
Wow. So just shy of 2 years. So you and I started, first of all, I don't think I knew that you were diabetic. I'm diabetic also. And I started in November of 2022. So you and I started the medicine around the same time. I don't know about you, but so I was kind of like you, I didn't have any, I actually didn't have high A1C. Like I had normal everything. And then after COVID, everything kind of went haywire health wise for me. And then I was diagnosed in November of 2021. And then I was kind of like you too. Like I didn't go to the doctor, put me on medicine. I was like, what can I do to not be on medicine? And he's like, keto. I did it for a year and I didn't lose any weight. It helped my A1C, yada, yada, yada. But yeah, I started it. And so it's kind of interesting that we kind of had the similar track. What did you found out that you were diabetic, but aside from some of the symptoms that you named there, did you ever notice that you just couldn't, were just tired, just super, super tired constantly?
Mm-hmm.
That was the biggest thing for me. Was my
A1C when I found out I was diabetic was 10.
Ooh,
it was, and for those who don't know, that's very high. Because I think the diabetic level is 6.7 or something like that, right? So it was very high. No, I struggled pretty bad with postpartum depression also with my kids. So it was a combination of mental health and my body's falling apart. And no, I was exhausted all the time. I had 2 little babies. It was not a good situation. We couldn't really leave our house because it was just there. It was not a good situation. Yeah.
I can't even imagine because I think also the other thing that struck me, you said your first child that you had that was born at 26 weeks.
Yeah. So I have a stepdaughter who's people always are somewhat confused by this. I have 3 kids because I have a stepdaughter. She's 11. Okay. And then I have my son. So my son was the first 2 I gave birth to. And my son was born at 26 weeks. Yeah. So, and he was in the NICU for 100 days. So it was,
oh my goodness.
Yeah. So neither of my birth experiences, which, if you have PCOS, you're always sort of told your whole life, it's probably going to be hard to get pregnant. It's probably going to be hard to get pregnant. That was not something I experienced. And I always wanted to be a mother. And then to have the birthing experiences I had were not ideal. So yes, it's been, fortunately, both of my kids are healthy, wonderful children now. So yes, that didn't add to, I was tired from having little babies. I was tired from depression. And then I also was clearly very tired without knowing from what was going on with me physically. I didn't know, and I blamed myself. I said it was because I was eating bad and, all this kind of stuff.
All the things that all of us can identify with. At what point after you started Mounjaro were you like, I'm going to put this on the internet?
I waited. So it was not until, I had lost a decent amount of weight. I think my first post was maybe a year and 3 or 4 months ago. And I had lost, I can't say how much. So I don't own a scale. So I don't really know how much I weigh. That's my thing. I don't know how much I weigh. I know how much I've lost from going to the doctor. But I had lost a majority. So I think it's so cool when I see people creating content and they're starting like their first injection. I was not in a place to do that. So yeah, no, I started sharing further along. I don't know what it was that made me like, I think I saw some people that I gained a lot of information from like Facebook groups and things like that when I first started. And I had a good thing going in terms of like what I was doing to try to change my relationship with food. But I think I decided to post because I was like, this isn't just about the medication. Like, I have been struggling my entire life to lose weight. And I think I'm telling this to myself. I think I might have figured out a way to do it differently with the medication, but I think I've also figured out a way to do it differently where I don't feel like I'm hanging on for dear life.
Yeah.
So I guess at some point, I mean, yeah, if you would ask me if I would share a before and after photo 3 years ago, I would have told you were nuts. But because I was ashamed, I was embarrassed. You know, I barely wanted to take photos. But yeah, at some point I got the courage, I guess, to share it, you know, like about a year ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what a difference that has made for so many people. Now you probably would have never imagined at that point, like my videos will be hitting 12 million people.
Yeah.
Like that's insane. That is
No,
an insane number.
It is. Yeah. No, but it clearly shows. And I don't think it's, you know, there's a lot of us out there making content. And I think it shows that there are so many of us who have been struggling with our weight for so long. And at least for me, I felt very alone with it for majority of my life. And there are people saying we don't want to feel alone with this. We don't want to feel ashamed anymore. Well, the way we reduce shame is by talking about it, is by connecting with it. And so I think that's why there's a lot of interest. And like you said, I'm not afraid to, you know, call out the BS though either. And I think that appeals to people because I'm outspoken. And I think people feel like if they aren't, I mean, and the reason I respond also to like a lot of the negative comments is because I get messages every single day from people saying to me, my husband is judging me. I don't want to tell my friends. My friends are judging me. So like, yeah, these are just strangers on the internet. I don't care what they think about me.
Right.
But it's more than that because it's like, it's so many people saying like, you have given me the courage to talk about it. Like you've given me the courage to to not feel ashamed to talk to my doctor about it, you know, that kind of stuff. So yeah. So
I love that.
Wild though. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I've been working slowly through a book that I'm probably going to be releasing in the next couple of months here, hopefully before the holidays. But the whole reason I wrote it was the whole thing you just laid out there. I had just heard too many people in my comments, in my messages and emails say, I just don't feel like I can tell anybody that I'm taking this medication. And it just breaks my heart. Like, because there's just so much stigma wrapped around just obesity in general. There's so much shame that we put on ourselves, so much shame that has been in some cases put on people by other people. It's just a nasty disease to live with. And so much is misunderstood about it. And I was like, I just want to write a book that somebody can go here. Like this guy talks about the medication and he can talk about it better than I can. And hopefully open the doors between those people and the people that mean something to them in their lives so that they can sort of bridge that gap of like, I don't feel like I can tell you about this medicine, but I feel like this guy can. And if this book sort of opens your mind to it, then I don't know. It's just my heart. That's exactly my heart behind that book. And so I can really appreciate that. That's sort of your driving factor behind the content that you make. And I love that there's so many of us out there who just have a heart sort of just for other people who are, you know, living the same experiences and want to, just see better for those people, even though they're complete strangers. Just that kind of galvanizing bond of like having lived a similar experience is just so cool. So let's talk a little bit about where people can find you. I know we talked a little bit about that at the beginning, but if you can just remind people the handle and where you're at, and then maybe kind of, you know, I think if we can circle back a little bit to just some of your experiences that you've had in the last year going on the Oprah show and stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah. So, so on TikTok and on Instagram, it's Amy and Half. And then I also have a website. It's called quietthenoise.co. And I named it that. I started this company, and I named it that because it's quieting the noise of like food noise, but then also I'm like quieting the noise of all the distraction of people judging us for these medications and the misinformation and all that kind of stuff. So anyways, there's those are the places you can definitely reach out to me, and you can there's also a form on my website for like if you want to email me, that kind of thing. And then your other question was about Oprah. Yes.
So we just to like lay the groundwork here, Amy. Yeah. We've had a couple different people who have been on Oprah's show or who have met Oprah in the process of their journey.
Sure.
And the number one question that always gets asked in every single live is, what did Oprah smell like? I always just say probably
really lovely. She did.
Not just like piles of money.
Yeah, right. No, she was really, really lovely. And, so I did not meet her until, I was walking to the stage, or until I went on stage. And,
this was the Oprah special, right? The big prime time one that she did on ABC.
So they, a producer found me. They weren't sure if the show was happening or not. Or this is what he told me. And then he talked to me for about 45 minutes to an hour. And then about a couple hours later, he called me and said, "It's a go. We're doing it. You're doing this." And I was like, okay. So yeah, they had like a 15-person camera crew came to my house in the suburbs of Chicago and did a whole day of filming with me and my kids and my husband. And then they flew us to LA. Me and my husband and my mom came with. And so I didn't meet Oprah until I was walking the stage. Now they showed the clip that they had filmed at my house, right? They did like a little story about me and they introduced me before I talked to her. I wasn't expecting to really have emotions because I thought I would be so nervous, but I sat down and half the clip was still playing. And it was talking about some of the harder things I've been through. And, my dad passed a few years ago. And so that was touched on. And so I teared up a little bit. And Oprah goes, "We need a Kleenex. We need a Kleenex." So Oprah got me a tissue. That's my claim to fame. She got me a tissue. She fixed my hair. She got my hair because I was crying a little bit. She like got me ready to go. Cause then it was like 3, 2, 1, you're on. So she did that. And she made me feel very comfortable talking to her. And then afterwards, I thought I was ready to go home. They were getting us ready to go. And the producer who I had gotten to know says, "Hold on, Amy, hold on." And he calls me back and, she wanted to meet with me. So I met with her in her dressing room, just one-on-one. And, she was kind and lovely. And yeah, it was great. And I think I always say, if Oprah, who has a bajillion dollars and could have a personal chef 24/7, who sure she does have a personal chef 24/7, and someone following her around, making sure she's not eating too much food, obesity is a disease. And I think that's why it was so cool that she is someone that said that. The whole experience was very wild. Sometimes I still look back and I'm like, did that really happen?
Yeah.
It was very cool.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you and I think are from the same generation-ish. And like Oprah was like the queen of the world. I mean, to some extent she still is. And I would just kind of dovetail on what you said about her. I said the same thing about her. Like, she has conquered the world. Like, what has Oprah not done? Yeah. Pretty much anything she's wanted to do, she can do. Mm-hmm. I'm surprised she hasn't been president at this point, honestly. But she can just do anything. It's not about willpower. Mm-hmm. If it's about who has more willpower than somebody who's accomplished everything that she's accomplished in life, that's not what it's about. And she's the perfect poster child for that. Not only that, but she was the absolute piñata for culture for so many years while we were growing up. And it's all about her weight, all of it. It didn't matter what she accomplished. People always knew Oprah by her weight. Mm-hmm. And that, I just think that that's powerful. Mm-hmm. My one question I have in all that is, did you save the tissue?
No, I should have. That would have been good. No, I should have.
$1 Oprah tissue. No, that's
Yeah.
amazing. What a cool experience. And
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have an Oprah moment, but I do definitely have moments of this journey where it's like, is this really happening? And so I can definitely identify with just like, you know, if I can encourage anybody who's watching tonight, share your journey. Let content like Amy's be an inspiration for you, because you don't know who you're going to help. And you don't have to have 250,000 followers on Instagram to make a difference. If you can share your journey and make a difference with one person and make an impact in one person's life so that one person doesn't feel like they're alone, if you can make a difference for one person, it's worth it. And I think that I would just encourage anybody who's sitting there today, like, should I make a video about this? Should I put this out there? Do it. The world needs more people who are willing to put themselves out there like Amy has. And so I would just say, Amy, congratulations on all your success. I mean, you have really just shown people how it's done when it comes to just finding a way to tell your story. And then from a creator perspective, what I admire the most, again, is just getting the story outside the bubble, which you have done so marvelously. And I think really done a service to everyone who has struggled with this disease by being willing to put yourself out there to sort of take the slings and arrows that come with, moving the needle on the discussion about how we treat obesity in this country. To be able to take those slings and arrows takes a very strong person. And so I think you've done it very well and deserve all the credit in the world for what you've done with your content. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we sign off tonight?
No, I don't think so. Thank you for having me. The first thing I wrote when I was creating an account, the first thing I wrote in my caption was, "You're not alone in all this." And it's still there. It's on Instagram now too, because I started on TikTok. And I think that's why people resonate with my story. I think that's why people resonate with a lot of our stories that are sharing, because that's what it's about. Like, we felt very alone in our struggles for a very long time. And I think that's why I haven't changed it, because it's true. Like, that's every day I get messages being like, this helps me feel less alone, less crazy, less sad about the situation. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you for giving some of your time to the OnThePen community. You can go check out Amy's website at quietthenoise.co or on Instagram or TikTok at Amy in Half. Amy, it was a pleasure to meet you tonight. Thank you so much for giving some of your time to the channel. Really, really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Have a great evening.
You too.
Amy Kane, Amy in Half. What a amazing content creator. What an amazing story. And I know that most of you know who Amy is, probably, but for those of you who just sort of live in this kind of like shelter of YouTube, hopefully that content that you saw us play early on in the interview would be an impetus to go check her out on the other platforms, because it's just such good, inspiring content. As promised, those of you who are in maintenance, and I know Amy is one of those people who has reached that point in her journey, we have efforted to bring something to you every week. And so I am so excited that our friend Corey has agreed to share a little bit about what she's gathering from her lives that she's doing over on TikTok for those in maintenance, and just sort of sharing a little bit of information for those of you in maintenance tonight. So we're bringing you this week's Maintenance Minute with Corey.
There, I'm Corey. Today we're going to chat about something a lot of people who are close to or in maintenance are going through with GLP-1 medications like Ozempic and Zepbound. They're really shaking things up for people, and with all the changes happening, I thought it'd be good to talk through some of it. Because let's face it, when your body's changing faster than you can keep up with, it's a lot to process. Now, I know you're probably getting tons of compliments like, wow, you look amazing, which is nice, don't get me wrong. But sometimes in those quiet moments, you might be staring in the mirror thinking, who is this person and why are they wearing my bathrobe? Trust me, you're not the only one who feels that way. The thing is, your body might be changing quickly, but your brain? Well, it's like, hold up, we're still buffering. So if you're feeling a little out of sync, like, I know I've lost weight, but I don't feel different yet, that's totally normal. One thing that helps is giving your brain some time to catch up. Maybe trying some mindfulness, just a few minutes of deep breathing or sitting quietly. I promise it's less Zen monk than it sounds and more like hitting the reset button on your brain when it's doing that anxious overthinking thing. And look, I know people always suggest journaling like it's a magical cure for everything, but honestly, it can help. You don't need to write an essay, just jot down a few thoughts about how you're feeling. It's like venting to a friend who never interrupts. Now, if you're really struggling to wrap your head around all these changes, talking to a therapist can work wonders. Sometimes you just need someone with professional experience to tell you, yeah, you're not going crazy. This is a lot. And while people will comment on how you look, try to remember that the real win here is how you feel. Sure, it's nice to hear you look great, but isn't it even better to realize, hey, I can walk up these stairs without feeling like I just ran a marathon? That's the stuff that matters. And let's be real, stairs are nobody's friend, so that's a big deal. Also, cut yourself some slack with all that self-talk. We've all been there looking in the mirror and pointing out every little flaw like it's a sport. But what if instead of, ugh, I still have such a long way to go, you said, look at how far I've come. Speaking of goals, don't make them all about appearance. Focus on how you want to feel or what you want to be able to do. Maybe it's getting more active or just feeling stronger. That's the stuff that'll keep you going in maintenance long after the weight loss high fades. And remember, you don't have to go through this alone. Sometimes leaning on trusted friends and family for support makes a huge difference. They just need to know how they can help. Because let's face it, sometimes they're out here offering you cake when you really just want someone to take a walk with you. Tell them what you need. And if it feels right, talking to a therapist or joining a support group can also be a game changer. Honestly, sometimes just hearing someone else say, yep, I've been there too, is more comforting than anything. Now, a big part of this journey is redefining your relationship with your body. Your body is so much more than how it looks. Think about what it can do now. Like maybe you can hike without needing a snack break every 10 minutes. Or maybe you're just feeling lighter on your feet. Celebrate that. And don't forget to move your body in ways that are actually fun. You don't need to be a gym warrior unless that's your thing. Dancing around your living room in your pajamas to 80s music counts too. And it's a lot more fun than burpees, trust me. At the end of the day, this whole process is about being kind to yourself. Some days you'll feel awesome, like, yes, I've got this. And other days it's more like, well, no, today is a couch and sweatpants day. And that's fine too. When those negative thoughts creep in, just take a breath, remind yourself how far you've come. Also, wear clothes that make you feel good. We all know the power of a great pair of jeans or that comfy sweater that makes you feel like $1,000,000. Oh, and if people are making comments about your body that make you uncomfortable, don't be afraid to shut it down. Politely, of course. You can always just say, I'd rather not talk about that. Protect your peace. So through it all, just remember this journey isn't only about how you look. It's about finding balance, happiness, and health. Be patient with yourself, lean on your people, and most importantly, be kind to yourself. You're doing amazing, and don't forget to enjoy the ride, even if it feels a little wild sometimes. And seriously, remember, you're not alone in this. We're all out here figuring it out, step by step, and we'll get there.
That's this week's Maintenance Minute with Corey. Yeah, I usually do the Maintenance Minute before the interview. I wanted to respect Amy's time tonight. But yes, so normally that will drop before we jump into this. So thank you for the programming note, Cloakster. But hopefully you enjoy that. Hopefully that is something that you can extract some value out of if you are in maintenance. Corey's doing a great job putting that together every week for us. So thank you to Corey for that, and doing it while preparing for a hurricane to hit her home. So thank you to Corey for that. Excellent Maintenance Minute. If you are looking to get on a GLP-1, or if you're in that maintenance process and you are looking to get access to GLP-1s for that process, look no further than row.co/OTP. Now, Row is actually the sponsor of On the Pen Live. They're the sponsor of the podcast, and I am a community advisor to Row. On behalf of the community, I am giving input in their offerings and in some of the tools that they have, like their Row Checker tool, where you can go and check out what medications are covered under your insurance plan. Very easy to do. Or you can report your shortage, because we know that that is always important to do. So hashtag report the shortage at ro.co/supply-tracker, where you can report the shortage. You can also get alerts when medications pop back up in your area. But if you're looking to get access to GLP-1 medications, Row Body program is something to look at. Folks who get on the Row Body program lose 15 to 20% of their body weight in a year on average with diet and exercise. That's row.co/OTP. Of course, if you're going to get on any new medication, you're always going to consult with a doctor. They have doctors available on demand there. They're very easy to access once you get on the program. And if you're going to get on new medication, you want to make sure that you're aware of all the side effects, potential issues that can go along with those medications. And they're just a couple clicks away at row.co/OTP. So thank you to Row for being a sponsor of this show. Thank you for being here tonight. This was an absolute great conversation with Amy. I knew it would be. I was really excited to bring this episode to you tonight, and thankful that she was willing to come on and do a live interview tonight. Probably a side of her that you're not used to seeing, but wanted to be able to bring that to you. Just the live element of it is always super fun to do. So thank you to Amy again for giving some time to the stream. Thank you to Corey for the great segment on maintenance. And thank you all for being here and for being the best part of what we do at On the Pen. Until next week, which will have Dr. Daniel Rosen, board certified obesity medicine specialist and bariatric surgeon, world renowned. He's going to be back to On the Pen for his second tour around the block. Candy, thank you for the super sticker. Also shout outs to Rudy with the $20 super chat tonight, Cloakster with the $20 super sticker, and Spoonie, who gave away 5 memberships to the channel. Thank you to those of you who choose to support my work in that way. It is so greatly appreciated. It is always appreciated, never expected, but always appreciated. So thank you so much to those who choose to give to the channel in that way. You're putting my kids through college. So thank you. Thank you so much for that. Until next week, folks, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May his face shine upon you and be so, so gracious to each and every one of you as you have been gracious to me. Thank you for giving us some time tonight and spending some of your week with us every week, 9 p.m. Central. This happens every week, and it's just such a great time. Until next week, have a good one. We'll see you on the other. Y'all.